From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Jason White. Liberal leadership candidate Mark Carney is officially in the race. He submitted his paperwork and deposit earlier today. Carney says Canada has been made more competitive by carbon pricing. That's also helped with sustainable jobs and the cost of living, but says his campaign team will have a carbon emissions policy that addresses the same aspects as the Liberal carbon price.
What you're going to see from my campaign, my group, working with people like Stephen and many others across this country, across the party, is a solution that works for everyone.
A handful of current and former Liberal cabinet ministers have endorsed Carney for the leadership, including Emergency Preparedness Minister Harjit Sajjan. He's now the latest member of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's front bench to announce he won't run for re-election. Sajjan says the recent political landscape has become increasingly toxic. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe says he's not straying away from the Team Canada approach in the response to U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff threats. Moe says he's all for pushing back, but
broad-based tariffs, dollar-for-dollar tariffs with the U.S. is not in Canadians' best interest, nor should export tariffs ever be considered by our government.
Canada's premiers met virtually with the Prime Minister today as the U.S. President threatens to slap 25% tariffs on Canadian goods starting February 1st. Immigration Minister Mark Miller says the United States is a safe place for transgender refugees, despite the rhetoric coming out of the new Trump administration. Refugee groups are pushing back. The Canadian Council for Refugees and Amnesty International Canada say this doesn't make sense in light of attacks on trans rights in the U.S. and policies on refugees and migrants. Montreal police have made no new arrests in the 2 months since a violent anti-NATO protest in November. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau condemned the violence, and Quebec Premier François Legault said it was urgent those responsible were brought in. Montreal's police chief said he was very confident there would be more arrests in the days and weeks after the protest, and said the group was known to police. 3 people were arrested during the protest, but 6 suspects are still outstanding. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency could send inspectors to Italy to investigate the source of a salmonella outbreak. At least 61 people have become sick in Canada. The federal agency food safety specialist Megan Griffin says the decision to send inspectors will depend on a variety of factors.
If we're getting everything in a timely manner and everything, I don't know if there would be a reason to go, but again, if there's some huge gaps that are found there and then it turns out to be a bigger issue, I think it's always a possibility, that we may have to go.
The CFIA recalled an imported brand of Italian mini pastries Saturday that were distributed at catered events in Alberta, British Columbia, Quebec, Ontario, and Nova Scotia. This is the Canadian Press. In sports, Connor McDavid says his 3-game suspension from the NHL was, quote, a little bit harsh, but the Edmonton Oilers captain says he understands the decision and is ready to move on. McDavid spoke with reporters at practice a day after he started his suspension with Edmonton's 3-2 loss to Washington last night. Tonight in the NHL, the Toronto Maple Leafs will try for their 4th win in a row when they host the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Winnipeg Jets will look for an improved performance as they take on the Colorado Avalanche in Denver. Team Chelsea Carey coach Glenn Howard says the Winnipeg-based rink has disbanded. It is a stunning development for a team that entered the season as the 2nd-ranked women's curling team in Canada. And wintry weather is posing a big problem for a couple American NBA teams tonight. The game between the Milwaukee Bucks and the New Orleans Pelicans has been postponed. A historic winter storm has dumped about a foot of snow in the Big Easy. From the Canadian Press, I'm Jason White.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.